Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name's Noelle and I do unboxings, mostly lifestyle subscription boxes, but also books, beauty, jewelry, travel, home decor, and the very occasional dash of Disney. So if you enjoy unboxings, I hope you'll consider subscribing to my channel and hitting the notification bell, and that way you'll find out whenever I post new videos, which is usually at least once a day, if not twice. Whenever I announce giveaways, there's usually several during the month, as well as in my live streams, which are also usually once a month on the 8th. I am planning on going live on the 8th of March, so hopefully some of you will join me there. I'll talk a little bit about the trip that I just went on, as well as some of the boxes that have unfortunately closed in the last couple of months. Today, though, I have a very long-awaited, or maybe just very overdue, subscription box to share with you, and that is the Once Upon a Book Club book box. This is their adult box. They also do a young adult box. They also do all kinds of limited edition boxes, often for holidays. I still have an entire Bridgerton box that I have not even delved into yet, so one of these days I will get into it, hopefully with the new season of Bridgerton. This, you guys, is actually the June 2021 box. That is how far behind I am. I was just looking at all of the book boxes that I have here stacked up. It's like over a dozen different book boxes from different subscription companies where it's that sort of read along and open gifts as you go format. And I do really like to, when I have the time, read those books so I get the full experience, so I can speak to whether or not I think the gifts were a good match for the book. So I am super behind. I actually started this novel like several months ago, and then every time I would wind up not having any time to read, and I would start all over from the beginning. So on this last trip, on our long journey home, I did actually have some time, and I did manage to finish the book. Obviously, I was able to get through the first half of it pretty quickly because I had already read it before. So at long last, here we are. Now, Once Upon a Book Club, if you are not familiar with it, it's one of the OG book subscriptions that's out there. They always give you a hint as to what the book is, and everyone does receive the same book for that month if you do the adult or the young adult. I think they do a good job of picking books. It's a variety of genres for sure. Most of the time I do really enjoy them, and sometimes there is a book where maybe it's not something that really suits my taste, but because as I read along there are little sticky notes on the pages that tell me it's time to open a gift, that does kind of keep me going and kind of get me through even the books that are a little bit of a harder read, a little bit more of a slog for me. The box itself is $49.99. That does include the shipping. There was a little price increase about 6 months ago. You can save 10% though using the code. My code is new. It has changed. It is just Noelle10. That will save you 10%. As always, I will leave a link for you in the description box below. Sometimes just using the link makes it easiest. So let's go ahead and dive into this. I did, like I said, read the book, and I will share with you what the contents of the gifts were. It's been so long now, I feel like it's okay to have spoilers. They do have some pretty active Facebook groups where you can buy, sell, and trade boxes, where you can get other boxes. You could also get other boxes on the Once Upon a Book Club site, past boxes, but sometimes I know people want to know what the gifts are. Sometimes the gifts I think are fantastic, and sometimes the gifts I feel like they're kind of throwaways. I am usually one who doesn't really appreciate the paper gifts. If it's like a letter that was in the novel and then they print out the letter for us, that's not something that I'm going to use in my daily life, but I have gotten some really cool products as well, and I always enjoy seeing what their interpretation is. So they do now include this kind of guide. So the theme for, or the hint, I guess, the name for this box was You May Say I'm a Dreamer, and it was for the book, the debut novel called Reset, which is by author Serena Dolan. So inside they do a nice conversation with the author, and now they do usually have a note from the author as well, which is included. They have some discussion questions, so you could definitely do this box as an actual book club if you and some of your friends all subscribe to it. It might also keep you a little bit more on track in terms of timing. They do have read-along dates, but for example, the read-along date for this one was August 3rd. You could tune in and see what all the gifts were. Again, this was the June box. They do ship towards the end of the month, but hopefully some of you actually take advantage of that. I won't read through the conversation. Then on the back, they do usually have like a little extra information or something. I thought this was kind of funny because it says DIY origami crane, and that looked funny to me, and I realized that origami was not spelled as I'm used to seeing it. I haven't made origami cranes in a real long time, so it was kind of interesting to have that in there, and I was like very inspired. I actually bought some origami paper because I used to take photographs of every single box that I got, but that got very overwhelming, makes it even harder for me to take to get through all these books that I have to read. So I'm not doing that any longer, but I do love origami. I find it very meditative when you know what you're doing. Anyway, you guys, let's get into the rest of the box. So this is kind of what it looks like. Sometimes they'll have like a few little shreds of paper in there, of crinkle paper, to keep things from moving around. I probably removed those. They always include a 5x7 quote card, which I know a lot of people really like to collect. That is an example of like a paper gift that I'm totally okay with. It's just kind of one of the signatures of this particular box. This one says, "We all have the freedom to author our own souls." And I do really like how they made all of the artwork kind of match the artwork of the book itself. And then now on the back, it does have a nice note from the author, which I think is kind of cool. So I will actually read that to you. But first, let me show you the paperback. And then I'll also show you what the little sticky notes look like. So this is what it looks like. You'll come across a page. It'll say "Open your gift," which I think is kind of cool. They do usually include a nice little bookmark, which I definitely actually use, even though I have all kinds of fancy bookmarks. And I believe this one actually came with a book plate as well. So it did come with a book plate with the author's signature, which I haven't stuck in there yet, but I do think that's nice. You can kind of see that faint image of the crane, of the origami crane, which was a nice touch. So let me read you the blurb on the back. It says, "Can you love someone you don't remember? After the last war destroyed most of the world, survivors form a new society in 4 self-sustaining cities in the Mojave Desert. In the utopia of the 4 cities, inspired by the lyrics of Imagine and Buddhist philosophy, everything is carefully planned and controlled. The seasons, the weather, and the residents. To prevent mankind from destroying each other again, its citizens undergo a memory wipe every 4 years in a process called tabula rasa, a blank slate, to remove learned prejudices. With each new cycle, they begin again with new names, jobs, homes, and lives. No memories, no attachments, no wars. Aris, a scientist who shuns love, embraces tabula rasa and the excitement of unknown futures. Walling herself off from emotional attachments, she sees relationships as pointless and avoids deep connections. But she is haunted by a recurring dream that becomes more frequent and vivid as time passes. After meeting Benya, a handsome, free-spirited writer who believes his dreams of a past lover are memories, her world is turned upside down. Obsessed with finding the Dreamers, a secret organization thought to have a way to recover memories, Benya draws her down a dangerous path towards the past. When Matisse, the leader of the Dreamers, appears in Aris's life, she believes everything she believes falls to pieces. With little time left before the next tabula rasa, they begin a bittersweet romance, navigating love in a world where names, lives, and moments are systematically destroyed. Thought-provoking and emotionally resonant, Reset will make you consider the haunting reality of love and loss and the indelible marks they leave behind. So this is a not dystopian necessarily future, but I mean, it kind of is, because the rest of the world, aside from these 4 ideal cities, is all that remains and everything else has been destroyed. It definitely had that sort of, science fiction tinge to it. And there was a lot of moments where I was like, I don't know how that would actually work, because children are raised up into a certain point and then you start undergoing tabula rasa every 4 years, and like just the logistics of that happening and how they can make sure that people they actually create children in the laboratory now, so people don't have necessarily relationships with their own children. And it was hard for me to get over that sort of believing that this situation could actually happen and that there would be this great planner who based it off of a John Lennon song. So for me, it was just like not my type of book, but I tried to get into it. I did finally get into it. Like, the writing I thought was actually pretty good once I got past that suspension of disbelief. But yeah, it's definitely very futuristic. It's a very what if idea. And basically it's still a love story. It's, it's in terms of someone wanting to know their past and still like having memories of someone, and are we destined to be with that person, and is it worth, like, if someone tells you like it's like waking up from a coma and someone says, I'm your spouse, do you just go with that and believe that in some former life you were attached to that person and try to make yourself feel those feelings again? Because that's kind of what happens basically. Everyone has amnesia relationship wise every 4 years. So it was an interesting concept for sure, but I will say that I did enjoy most of the gifts in this box. So let's read the note from the author, which I don't think I actually read. It says, "Dear reader, I'm thankful that Reset, my bluebird of happiness," cute because it's a blue origami crane that's used by the dreamers who believe that their dreams are actual memories of past lives or past 4-year periods. That's how they communicate and how they get other people to join their group. It says, "Found its way into your hands. To me, a debut book's quest to find its readers is like going on a blind date. You have some clues as to who the person is. Maybe it's the color of their hair, what they're wearing, or their height, but all of that is superficial. You don't really know who they are as a person, the essence that will determine the bond between you and them. That bond won't be forged until you sit down in front of each other and have a conversation. And when you find the person with whom you truly connect, who sees you for what you really are and for all the intentions behind what you do, it's truly a gift. That's what reading is to me, a conversation between the book and the reader. Each brings to the table the essence of themselves. That intimacy of a shared moment is the magic of books. It is my hope that you will find something to connect with in this intimate story hidden inside a big idea. I would love to hear your thoughts after you've finished, and it would be lovely if we could keep in touch. With optimism, Serena Dolan." I actually really love that. I love that idea of the book being a conversation with the reader and it having to get into the right hands. So I was, like I said, I was tried to be as open-minded as I could with this book. It's just such a big concept that the logistics of it I had a hard time getting over, even though it's really just a love story in all honesty. So let's go ahead and get into the actual items. So there were a lot right in the beginning, which is why I kept getting through like the first third or the first half of the book so many times. The first one came on page 19, so let me just read that passage. It says, "In a quick move, the man in the fedora grabs his hand as if wanting to shake it. Instead, he puts a silver bangle on the angry man's wrist. Instantly, the angry man becomes silent and still as the column behind him. His rage dissipates into the air like smoke." So it is our protagonist, Aris, and I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing her name correctly, but she sees this man basically get arrested almost on the street because he's kind of like ranting and raving. He looks like a crazy person. He's talking about how their memories have been stolen from them. So he's like an outlier, right? And they have to silence him. So they put this bracelet on him, which calms him, which I thought was an interesting idea. So I will say that Once Upon a Book Club does such a great job in terms of like packaging. You can even see there's that like cityscape there in the background on the little pouch. And then this was kind of a cool item because I was like reading that passage, I was like, they're gonna give me a bracelet that like pacifies people. It's actually a really pretty cuff bracelet. It definitely is like very modern. You can kind of see it's got like a spring hinge to it, and I thought it was pretty cool. It actually did fit on my wrist pretty nicely. I could see it being a fun piece to wear, so I was like, okay, that's an example of like a good interpretation of this kind of like modern futuristic item, and I can just use it as a nice jewelry piece. So I was actually really happy with that gift. I thought it was a really cool interpretation. They do a lot of getting the gifts actually made for the books, and that's why they've had a lot of shipping delays, but they're actually getting really caught up. So for a while I had a little reprieve and I didn't feel so behind because they were behind in shipping, but now they've totally caught up, so I need to catch up and do a little bit more reading. So I'm interested to read the next one, but I have another book club that I have to catch up on first. The next one was on page 53. So it says, "What's this?" Aris weighs it with her hand. "Something I found at the gift market." And this is talking to Benya or Benja, I'm not sure. It's a friend that she meets who starts to believe that his dreams are his memories. It says, "Something I found at the gift market. I thought of you when I saw it." Aris unwraps it and reveals a small desertscape painting. Her face breaks into a wide smile. So this was where I was like, oh, okay, we're gonna get another like art print. And usually when we get like a art piece in Once Upon a Book Club boxes, they're not like the most exciting. They're never really framed. I have gotten a framed one once from a book, which was actually pretty cool. So it just came in this super simple like mailer with the page number on it. I actually sliced it open, and this is the image. So it just looks like a watercolor that someone did on, you know, watercolor paper, and then they printed it up, and they did print it up on pretty nice cardstock, so it's a little bit thicker. You could definitely frame it if you wanted to. It's not like my vibe necessarily. I like how simple it is, but it wasn't like a piece that I necessarily would put up in my home as a memory of reading the book. But you know, that's the case with any art piece, and it's totally fine. They can't have every single item in here be like super high value and it's not going to hit everyone's taste. So again, there is usually like 3 to 5 gifts. It just kind of depends. One thing that they've done in some of the recent books, or I think the last time I did one of these reviews was back in October of last year, so it's been a while, but lately they've been kind of adding some fun other little sticky notes. So this one had a QR code because there's this piece of music that she really listens to a lot, that she really enjoys, and that is of course a tie to her former lover. And they actually included the music that the author Serena Dolan listened to when she was inspired in writing this book. So I thought that was kind of cool. I realized that after I read the author's note at the end of the book that was the actual musician that she was listening to, but I thought that was kind of cool. I don't have YouTube Premium, so there were like ads in the middle of it, but it was very beautiful. So next one was on page 73. It says, "I can't do it," he says finally, and thrusts the paper into her hand. "You do it." She's never seen him like this. He's usually fearless. She takes the piece of blue paper and holds it over the flame. Benya sucks in a breath. His eyes stare unblinking. A corner of the paper curls and a burning smell rises. She raises the paper. She needs to find that perfect place between answer and ash. Brown lines slowly appear one by one until words form. Spring flower. Her breathing stumbles. She almost drops the paper. Benja reaches over with a trembling hand and takes it from between her fingers. His face is alight with ecstasy. So like I said, they use these blue origami cranes to speak to sort of contact other people who might be potential dreamers. So this is what it looks like. The box, again, very beautiful. It's got like kind of like that watercolor effect, but also like all these like folds in it. So we open it up and we got a really cool little candle, which I thought was nice, with this sort of like terrazzo print on the outside, which it doesn't really have like a scent. It's maybe like a light vanilla scent to it, but I thought it was awesome that we got a candle because you guys know how I love getting candles. And also really jammed inside of that box, we did get a little origami crane. Now the idea was that they set this origami crane next to someone in the library and then you're supposed to burn it, and then there's a message inside that you can only see because it's like written in lemon juice or something that reacts with the flame if you burn it very carefully. I know some people actually did it and they said they saw a word. It wasn't spring flower like in the book, but I forget what it was. Anyway, I unfolded it to see if I could maybe faintly see some words, but then I just decided to refold it so that I could share this little origami crane with you guys on this unboxing. So we did get the little origami crane. Supposedly it does actually say something. I wasn't like game enough to burn it because I didn't want to show it to you, but maybe now that I've done the unboxing I will. And then finally, not until 263 did we get our final gift, but we wound up with then 4 gifts, which I thought was pretty good, and the candle and the bracelet were pretty nice. It says, "In his hand is an old book with a cover so tattered she can barely see the words. Love in the Time of Cholera by Gabriel Garcia Marquez," which is also part of the inspiration of this book and the Dreamers in particular. He opens the book and reads a passage. Suddenly a bright light shines up from the book, bathing the room white like the inside of a hospital. She staggers backwards. Her hip hits the corner of a bookshelf, tilting her off balance. So it's kind of interesting. So they have like kind of escaped essentially, and because this book keeps coming up, I was like, oh, we're gonna get a copy of Love in the Time of Cholera, but I realized that the last gift was actually very small, so I was like, we're gonna get a really small copy of it. And I was really happy that we didn't just get a copy of the book, because even though sometimes I like getting another book inside of a book box, like not always, especially one that's so popular that a lot of people already probably have a copy of. So this is what we got. And I have to say, this was probably one of the coolest gifts we've ever received. It does have a USB cord attached to it. And then inside, they did wrap it up like a book, and it kind of faintly says Love in the Time of Cholera. And I was like, okay, all right. So maybe it's a little notebook that says Love in the Time of Cholera. No, you guys, it is this super cool LED book lamp. So it's made out of wood. It's got this cool like waffle binding, and you're probably going to get a little strobe light effect here. It's got a magnetic closure, and then when you open it up, it is actually a lamp. It is very similar to one that I received in a Be Relaxed box. I think that is so freaking cool, you guys. Isn't that neat? I did read the little manual, and it says that it actually does like different colors, but I couldn't get my version of it too, so I feel like this is like the less expensive version. But that is such a cool book light. I thought that was an awesome item, very unique, totally went with the book itself, and I thought this was a really good box in terms of the gifts. So you guys let me know what you thought about this box, what your favorite gift was. If you've read this author, it's worth a shot. It was definitely an enjoyable read once I got into it. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please do give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you all very, very soon in my next unboxing. If you're looking for a fun way to read new books, Once Upon a Book Club is a great option.